Okay, morning. For Unit 4, our end goal for our sort of prototype for this Unit 4 siya, but in Unity Create with Code, it is Unit 5, no? Or GUI. So the end goal is something like this. We have our start screen with choose a difficulty, easy, medium, hard. I've set this as easy with 2 seconds spawn time, and then medium with 1 second spawn time, and then hard with 0.5 seconds spawn time. So let's try this. If I click on easy, so there is that. Okay. If I click on bomb, it's okay, pero minus score, minus 10 for the bombs. If there is a fruit that I failed to click on and it falls from the screen, there will be a game over screen. And then we can restart the game. If I click on restart, it is again choose the difficulty, medium, easy, medium, hard. Let's click on hard this time. So there are more things flying, right? And if one falls off the screen, game over. Okay. So for this lecture, we'll be doing the score, the updating score, as well as the particles, okay, and as well as your game over and restart button. We'll do the difficulty setting sa next lecture na lang. Okay. So start. Okay. I'll close this and let's see where we are right now, or where we left off. So where we left off, there are already targets that are flying around, and if I click on them, they disappear, right? Okay, this one disappears, that, so on and so forth. Okay. Oops. So what we need to do, or what we want to do now, is to add some particle effects, just as we've seen on the example. For Unit 5, we already have particle effects here provided by Unity. So we can pick and choose from this list. We could have a black explosion, looks like that if you play. That is the black explosion. We could do some like orange explosion as well. So there are a lot of things here that you can choose from. What I did in the example was a green explosion, right? So play here. Okay. That is the explosion. We can tweak this, but for now I'll leave green explosion as is. I'll delete this for now. And then the other one was a red explosion, but I modified that for the bomb. So explosion red here. So if we play that, so similar red, no, with square particles. But I tweaked this surrenderer. Instead of the cube mesh, I selected on our bomb, now SM prop bomb mesh. So the particles will look like bombs, and the color over lifetime, I also changed this to fade to black, right? Okay, and then moved it here a bit, something like that. So let's see. So our particles look like, yeah, they look like bombs, right? I'll zoom in real quick. So they look like small bombs exploding. Okay, pretty good for now. So we can do this as explosion red, or rather, I would like to rename this explosion bomb, like so, and then create another prefab. I'll just drag it to the particles folder and original prefab. Okay, and then I'll remove it from the scene. Okay, to have a reference for our targets, no, or our fruits, whatever, let's go to script, back to script, and let's click on targets, because we want to create the explosion when our target is destroyed. So it's here, right, on mouse down. So we can say like a comment here, like to do create explosion. Okay. So for that, we'll serialize a field. If our serialized fields are getting a bit messy, we can organize this with headers. No, so header, for example, and then followed by parentheses. This accepts a string. This is just for the header. So I can say random, say forces, forces, and then let's do another one. Say particle effects, particles, and then I will instantiate this as a game object. So data type is game object, not particle effects. And then this, I will name this particles, particle effects. Okay. So what we want is whenever we click on our target, we create an explosion first, and then we delete or we destroy our game object. So we'll instantiate it here, instantiate, followed by particle effects, uh, transform dot position. So it spawns where your uh, target was last, and then no, this should be Quaternion identity. There. Okay. Next thing we want to do is to have a reference. Now we fill this up sa inspector. Okay. So going back to Unity, under our prefabs, so we have our bomb here. Let's remove the animator. What is okay. So it has the header here, no? My forces and particles. So that is the header we put here. So forces, particles. Just to separate things a bit, no? If it gets a bit messy, we can do this. So particle effects. Here we could just go to our particles and we'll select the bomb explosion. Explosion bomb. There. So it is a game object that we want to instantiate. Then we'll do this for all the other prefabs as well. I'll just select all three, go to particles, and then drag our explosion green. So it applies to all three. There. Okay, so let's check. So prefabs, so food 1 has explosion green, food 2 has explosion green, food 3 has explosion green. Okay, sige, let's try playing the game. So if I click on the fruit, there's a green explosion. If I click on the bomb, there is a bomb explosion. Okay, looks neat, right? Okay, staying with me. Okay. Next thing you want to do, score. So a score UI, that we want to update whenever we click on our targets. So for the example that I've shown, whenever I click on the apples, either the green apple or the red apple, it is 1 point each. And then for the pear, it is 3 points each. And then for the bomb, it's -10. So we want to do it. What do we want to do is we'll create a UI element. So left click on the hierarchy, and under UI, we will create a text mesh pro na object. So let's click on text mesh pro, and it will. If it's the first time that you've used text mesh pro, it will ask you to import our essentials or TMP essentials, text mesh pro essentials. Let's just click on that, import that. This is really quick. Okay, like so. You can import the examples and extras, but we don't need that right now. What we want is this TMP here, text TMP. We'll rename this as score, right? It's hard to see, but in the game screen, it is over here. It's a bit hard to see now. If I'll rename this as score text. Okay. If I click on, if I go to the inspector, there is a text mesh pro component here, and then and other settings here. So the current text is, it says there, new text. Let's put this as score, like so. And then we can also edit sort of like font size, bold, italics, etc., font asset, etc. If you have fonts, you can import the font, no, to Unity and you can use it as a font asset. But for this, we can select fonts, click on the small circle here. We can select the fonts that we want. For the example, I use this, Oswald Regular. So I'll use this again. And then I'll change the vertex color, which is the font color, to green, right? Green there. So full green. So it's still a bit hard to see. It's over there. Yeah. So we'll need to situate it. Let's take a look at uh, the game scene. No, this is the game scene where we put the camera and then objects fly in. You can click on objects, etc. The canvas or the UI canvas is a different thing. It is not captured by the camera on together with the objects. It is sort of overlaid. So if these are the objects at the front of it, overlaid is the UI canvas. So if we take a look at it, it's much bigger than our game scene. So that is our UI canvas. The next thing we do is we want to sort of resituate this. So if any changes here at the canvas, you will see at the game screen there, right? Sige, let's make this a little bigger, maybe 60. Font is 60. And then to add a bit of more pop so it's more visible, I'd like to edit the font asset. No, if we can click on this Oswald Regular STF and we can do some things to change it. I want to put some underlay so it's sort of like a drop shadow. We could dilate this to make it bigger, like so. So pag one siya, it looks like that. You could also do some offset. So this offsets in the X direction. I want it to be a little like that. And an offset in the Y direction. Maybe something like this. Okay? So, so it could be differentiated from our background. And then we could just resituate it. Okay? Going back sa rect transform of our font asset here, we see this box. It's like a targeting box. No? If I click on this, there are a lot of presets. These are anchor presets. So the anchor is where your Text Mesh Pro or your UI assets, they will be anchored to that location on the screen. So if I resize the screen, it will stay there. So for example, this is currently by default anchored in the middle. If I resize my screen, currently it's not resizable because I defaulted it to 750 by 750. But if I click on free aspect, this can now be resizable. So if I resize it like this, it stays on the center. If I resize it like this, it stays on the center. Okay, so it's anchored on the center. Sang UI. Let's make it 750, 750 again. However, we don't want our screen at the middle of the game. So what we'll do is we'll anchor it at the top left, like in the example. So click on here, anchor presets, and let's just click on the anchors at top left. And then we could just move it there. So you could always check the locations, a game screen, if it is to your liking, no? Maybe right about there. And then hold, no? The other thing is if we have more things here, like score 100, there is a thing called a text wrapping. Text wrapping, you'll encounter this in like Microsoft Excel, etc. Right? That when it is out of the bounds of our bounding box, it will be on the next line. So it wraps. We can disable this now for it to be just one continuous line. This is under wrapping here. So instead of enabled, we could click on disabled. Because the bounding box here, ang ano siyang yellow. You can expand that as well if you want. There's another thing here, overflow. So this is the choice you have to make for your overflow of text. So for example, in this case, we are overflowing with like two characters, right? For 100 there. So if we click on overflow, we can click on ellipsis. This is, ooh, what happened? Oh, disappeared. Uh, ellipsis. Oh, it disappears. Masking, truncate. Oh, it is disappearing. Really is disappearing. Okay. There. Because the font is too big. Okay. So for example, truncate here will just remove, no, remove whatever that is overflowing. Ellipsis here will put dot dot dot, no, continuation sort of. Masking, let's look at that. Not really doing anything. Okay. Scroll rect, so my scrolling ka, not really what we want here. Page, so my page 1, page 2. Uh, but for this instance now, we want it to overflow. We actually want it to overflow. Parang one continuous line siya at the top. Okay? So we'll just set it at overflow and wrapping. Okay? Wrapping is disabled. Okay? Uh, all right. So if we click on play, currently, let's see where we are. So if we click on play, nothing really happens yet because we haven't really coded any behavior to score, right? So that's the next thing we want to do to score. Okay. For in the create with code example, score, um, target spawning, and reset game scene is all done in a game manager na object. But I want it to be a bit more modularized. So I want to create another object that is only responsible for score, keeping the score. So I want to do this because if I want to create or modify our source code for our score text, then I will only edit the score text, right? Or our score manager. If I want to edit some things in the spawner, I will also just edit the spawner. I won't touch the score or I won't touch the game manager. So we'll create another empty object here. Let's say this is score manager. Okay. I'll just reset the transform. And then we'll add a script for this one. Let's say score manager. Okay. Okay, it's compiling. Oops. So we could add a component here or we could just drag it here. Okay, there, score manager. Nothing's happening yet because we haven't coded this. Okay, so code, we want to keep, of course, a score, right? And private and private and score, right? And then we don't need update here actually, so I'll just remove update. We want public method, public void, not update, update score. Okay, so what we want to do is naka-private si score, and then we'll just create a method sort of like a setter, but this will only add no or update our score. This will accept an int score here, and then we'll say this score is not plus equals score. So we'll just add whatever score is passed as a parameter. We also need a reference to our score text. So we'll serialize the field, private. Uh, so the data type for this is text mesh pro UGUI. Don't use the text mesh pro here. So dapat text mesh pro UGUI. This is the one we want to use, and I'll just label this score text. So what we want to do in score text, so score at the start is 0, and score text we'll access the text component of our score text. Dot text is equal to score colon space and then plus score. So in this case, score here integer siya, di ba? If we truncate it with, or not truncate, we concatenate it with a string, C# will automatically transform it or cast it into a string, no? Parse it into a string. And then for updating score, we'll also do this. But instead of score here, we want to reference our object variable, this not score. So it's referring to this score instead of this score. Okay. You can also have a different variable name, but for me, that's uh, what I want to do. Okay. Okay. Next thing we want is to update or to assign rather. So Score Manager, it has no Text Mesh Pro UGUI here. We want our score text object there. So may reference na kita. But nothing is calling our update score yet, and that's the next thing we want to do. Let's go to our target prefabs. So our target prefabs, say our food here. Let's modify this target. We want that when the target is clicked, our score will update, right? So here, so on mouse down, we want, or I'll create another to-do comment here. To do, what we want to do is update score. So for that, what we want is, I'll minimize this. What we want here is to find our score manager. So we will find it with game object dot find. So this will find a game object in the current scene with the name score manager, right? And then we will get the script component with get component score manager here, and then we'll call update score. With what score though? It could differ from target to target. Let's say I'll put it here score value, right? It's giving me a red underline because we haven't initialized or declared this variable. So we'll declare it now, right? I'll remove this. Uh, I'll put another header score, and then I'll serialize another field for private int score value. Okay, so you have a serialized field for score value that way we can edit its prefabs inspector, right? And then we'll, on mouse down, we will find the game object named score manager. So in this case, it is this one, no? Our game object score manager. And then we'll get the component score manager, which is the script. No, it's not taking, so the find here is finding a game object named score manager. It's this one. So get component, we will get the component named score manager, which is this one, component niya. It is the script. And then we will call the method update score with the score value. Okay, so let's go to our targets under prefabs. So our bomb, I'll say we'll have a score value of -10, just like in the example. Food 1 here is the apple, score value is 1. Food 2 is the red apple, score value is 1. And for the pear, I want this to be score value 3. Okay, so let's test it out. Okay, pear flies in, 3 points, 1 point for that, -10 for that, 1 point, 1 point. Okay. Tapos, when the food falls off, wala pa kita game over. It's not yet implemented. That is the next thing we want to do is my game over siya na screen, right? Okay. Okay, next thing we want to do, game over message, right? And then, so for that, we'll click on the canvas because we want this to be a child of the canvas. Say UI, another text mesh pro object. I'll call this game over oh, game over text. Okay. So let's look at this. For the text, I'll just simply do game over, and then font size I'll do around 70 maybe. So that's a lot of overflow. Font color, we'll have red font color here. And then I'll make this center aligned and middle aligned. Looks like that, looks bad. We'll change the font as the same with Oswald. So whatever we change in Oswald, the font asset, no, like the underlay, the drop shadow, it's also implemented when we change the font here. No? So for everything that uses the font asset Oswald regular, in this case, we'll have that drop shadow effect. We'll disable wrapping here para naka one line lang siya. And then I'll resituate this around here. Maybe around, oops. Yeah, maybe around here. A little off center so we have space for our button, for our restart button. We'll also do that. No? We'll also create a restart button. So under canvas, or actually, I want to create it as a child of our game over text. That way, if we want our game over text to be disabled, set as inactive, our button will also be inactive. If we set our game over text as active, our button will also show up. So we'll create it as a child, UI. So for this, no UI under UI, we have button text mesh pro. Okay, looking at the button, it has this button. I will rename this as restart button. And my child, there is a child which is also text mesh pro. We'll rename this restart text. So the button is separated into two. One is the actual button, and the other one is the text, no, that we see in the button or inside the button. So the button looks like that. Okay. We'll resituate it. We'll under here, sort of. Oh, that's not okay. We'll situate it under here, and then for the text, I'll also use our Oswald text and uh, it says button here. We want restart. Okay, and we'll probably around I don't know 30. It's 30 too big, and then I'll just resize the button itself. Yeah, maybe that's good enough. I'll recenter it like so. Okay. So under button, there is another script, no? Well, one is image, which is sort of like the renderer. And then we also have button here. For button here, if you click on interactable, then we cannot interact with the button. We check on it, we can interact with the button. What we want is to interact with the button, so I'll get it checked. Um, this part of the button is the color of the button. So normal color is, well, the normal color of the button. It says here white, right? Highlighted color is when we hover over the button, we get our mouse over the restart button, it will change its color. I'll say like gray. Yeah, maybe that's good enough. For a pressed color, maybe let's pair it with game over. No, I want it to be red when we click on it. Pressed color. There are two here: selected color and disabled color. But this is one is if you are selecting the button, not yet pressing it, and disabled is when our button is disabled. Okay. And then we have an on click here, which will do something later. If we click on play for now. I will, sige, it's okay. If we click on play, our game over text is over there. Okay. If we highlight restart, no, it change. It should change color. It doesn't change color. Okay, but anyway, if we click on restart, it becomes red because pressed color is red, like so. But then we don't really want this where our game over screen is over here where our targets are also flying. So what we want to do is first we just disable our game over text. So here there's a check mark here. If we click on that, it disappears. So this is the reason why I want our restart button to be a child of our game over text. Is because when I click on disable, everything is disabled. When I click on enable, everything is enabled, like so. Okay. For this, we will create another object, finally our game manager. Our game manager will be responsible for managing scene reset, game over, selecting difficulty, etc. So we'll create a game manager here, and we'll also create a game manager script for its behavior. Game manager. Okay. Okay. Script is attached. I'll reset this. So for the behavior of the game, whenever we don't catch or we don't click some targets, good targets like the fruit, it falls to the screen and then it says game over. We failed to click on it. So that's the simple logic we will implement. However, if you want to sort of change that, maybe you want that if I click on a bomb, bam, this game over, right? Or maybe you will have lives, etc. You can also do that. But we'll stick with the simple. If I don't click on the fruit and it goes down, game over. Okay. So for that, we'll go to the script. So we want to display the game over screen, right? So we need another reference to that. Private text mesh pro UGUI and say game over text. And then I will have a method here, public method, uh, public void restart, display game over. Okay. And what this does is game over text dot game object dot set active is true. Okay. Or you could also, I think, active equals true like this. No, it's protected. Never mind. So if at the very start of our game over text is disabled, and then we will call this function display game over whenever the game is over. How would we know that the game is over? When our sensor here, which is the one responsible for deleting the falling objects, right? If our sensor here detects an object that is a fruit or a good object, bad object, okay lang. Uh, so first thing we want to do is to create tags. So for tag, we want to create another tag here, say good target. And then maybe we'll add another tag bad target. We won't really use bad target. We'll only use one of these no, sa logic, but I'll just tag them just for uh, organization. So our good targets will be tagged good target and our bomb here will be bad target. So they are tagged now. So with collision, we can now detect which is a bad target, which is a good target. So let's go to the sensor and it's a destroyer. Okay. We'll have another, I will have an if statement here. If or other dot tag. So if the tag, or we can actually compare tag as well. If we compare the tag to, oops, eh, Okay. If the tag is good object or good target rather, did I spell it correctly? Prefabs. So good target. If it is a good target, we will uh, game over, right? Okay. So for this, since our target destroyer and our game manager same lang man ang spawn time nila at the very start of our game, we could just serialize so we don't have to find, right? We could just serialize private game manager, game manager. And then we'll just call from game manager set display game over. Okay. Then we'll click on our sensor, and instead of finding it, we'll just drag it here. Game manager. There. Okay. So may reference na kita. If I click on play, okay. So fruit flies, fruit falls. Oh, object reference not set to an instance. Back at our game manager or game over text is not uh, supplied with. Sorry about that. Again, so there, fruit flies, fruit falls down, game over. But then our fruits are still spawning, and I can still actually just click on them. So that's the next thing we want to prevent, no? So if I click on restart, there's no functionality here yet. Okay, so what we want to do when the game is over, we want to stop spawning, and we want that our clicks should not affect any flying object. So for game over, let's have a private boolean here. Private bool uh, is game active. And we'll set this to true at the very start. No? You can edit that later on. And then I'll have another public, not void, bool. I'll name this is game active with a capital I, meaning that is a method. This will just return our is game active. So this is we can public this, yes, but I'm implementing encapsulation here where our is game active will only be inspected, no, not changed. We're protecting it. Okay. So for target destroyer, here over at display game over, we'll have is game active to be false because well game over na siya, right? And as well as sa spawner, right? So sa spawner, okay, spawner, target spawner will also do some things here. So for the spawner, I will also just serialize a field. Let's put it here. So this is for the game manager as well. Private game object, not game object, game manager, game manager. Like so. What we want here is instead of while true here na nag-spawn lang siya na nag-spawn, it's just keep on spawning. Our while here should be game manager that is game active. So if our game manager says that the game is not active anymore, no more spawning. Right? Okay. See. The next one is for the target. So for the target, we don't want this to be clicked, right? We don't want this to be clicked when the game is already over. So let's have a reference here, private game manager. See, okay. And then at the start, we'll get the reference for it. So why are we not serializing this? instead of serializing, we'll do find here. So game manager is game. Nope. Is game object dot find game manager. Okay. Find we'll find our game manager object and get the component game manager. So why are we finding instead of serializing it like what we did with spawner, with etc. Because well, it's not showing in the hierarchy. Our targets are not in the hierarchy at the very start of the game. It's not yet spawning. So what we want to do is at the moment of the spawn, it should find the game manager and then have a reference for the script. So here we'll get some on mouse down. We'll have a simple if statement here. If game manager dot is game active. So if the game is active, then sure, you can click on the target. If the game is no longer active, then we won't allow you to click on the target. Like so. Okay, let's. Okay. Target spawner does not have an instance. Okay, there we go. Okay, so when the fruit flies like that, game over. I can't click on the stuff anymore. Okay, if I click on restart, nothing happens. We have to code restart. Okay, so for that, uh, last thing we want to do is restart. So if we click on our restart button here, we have sa button on click. So this is a listener for button clicks. So when there is a button click from this button, there is a list here of methods that it will try to call. If we add one here, it looks like this. So may drop down of runtime, meaning it is on runtime, runtime object, or runtime only, editor and runtime. You could do that as well. So while you are editing, you can manipulate it. I'll just put it at runtime only for now. And then it's asking here for a game object, right? This is the game object where we want to call some things. So in this case, we want to call our game manager to reset the scene. We haven't coded that yet, so let's go back to our script. I'll delete start. I'll leave it there for now. We'll have a public void, and this is restart game. What this does is just restarts the game. So scene manager dot load scene and scene manager dot get active scene dot oops build index. You could also do name, no? Name like this. But what I'm used to is build index, so we'll just get build index. Then, okay, that's saved. It will compile. We will supply our game manager to the button here, so listener, and then we'll click on the function. So may function siya, no? You could, so these are the components of our game manager. It has a game object, it has transform, and it has the game manager script. So since our restart game is on the game manager script, we'll do the drop down here under game manager and look for restart game. If you see, there are so much more um, objects, not objects, methods, because these are all inherited from mono behavior, right? But what we're interested here is just restart game. And yeah, that's it. That's as simple as that. We'll save, click on play. Okay, so I'll click on this, click on that, click on this. I'll have it thrown there. Game over. I can't click on the thing. And if I click on restart, it will just restart the scene. So there's a bit of sense in our game already. It's not yet done though. We still need to add difficulty. That will be discussed in the next session. For now, we can stop.